again.
Damn it, I was going to say that.
Again, as always. I mean, yeah, you're right. It wouldn't be the first time.
That was the one episode where we actually had our cams on stream.
Whatever. If you can show Mario's nipples on stream, you should be able to show your own.
That's true. Twitch will be hearing from my lawyer.
Yeah.
Open salami.
The video was really dumb. In a really good way.
Oh no. You're a little crackly, Alex.
Fuck the latest Windows 10 update.
Yeah, probably. I feel like they didn't need to tease the Rogue One prequel show because they announced it at Celebration.
Wait, what? Okay.
There's a Cassian show.
Okay.
K2 is in it.
K2,
Are they gonna let him? Are they gonna let the guy touch Jabba?
Everybody wants that. I'm like, I saw some tweets about it, and just let him touch Jabba.
God.
I want a whole show about him touching Jabba.
What?
The was it the guy in Rogue One?
Let me see if I can find it.
I can't remember his name.
Diego Luna.
Diego Luna.
Jabba.
He is like super obsessed with like touching Jabba. He wants to touch Jabba so bad. That's like fascinated by like, oh, what would he feel like?
I mean, that's reasonable.
Okay.
I feel like it's not that hard to figure out what he would feel like. Like if you just look at him, you can kind of infer.
But you know.
Oh, I found a video.
It's not knowing.
Excuse me. What if he's like lightly fuzzy?
I don't think he would be lightly fuzzy.
But what if he is?
That would be strange because I just don't think. I don't think that that's.
I guess you'll have to touch him and find out.
I mean, I'm not saying that if Jabba were in front of me and was like, "Go ahead, touch me," and it wasn't gonna result in me falling into a bantha pit, then I would do it. I'm just saying I don't think I need that. It's not an obsession.
All right. Sharing our stream in various places and then do this crap. Pow. Whoop-bam. All right. I think it's good to go on this end.
All right. Everybody prepared? Everybody ready?
So.
Okay. Do you hear that, Mr. Anderson? That is the sound of episode 84 of Gaming Fix. On this August 24th, 2019, I am your host, Andre Cole. I am joined today by Alex Jelena.
The last Matrix movie was pretty good, actually.
Pat Cotter.
The Animatrix is better than the last two.
Allison Saigan.
All of the Matrix movies are really good and super underrated, and I was super excited.
That's definitely true.
I don't know my thoughts on the third one. I've always liked Revolutions. I don't know how I feel about Reloaded.
I think part of the reason that I like them is because the Wachowski sisters like turned into such like leftists over the course of their lives, and you can see like the seeds of that in the Matrix movies, but they weren't quite there yet. So it's interesting to think it's a lot like I mean they're obviously older than I am, but it's a lot like looking back on like how I was when those movies came out, or I guess a little after those movies came out. I was younger when they came out.
I was like 6 years old when those movies came out.
But looking back at like myself 10 years ago, we'll say, or 12 years ago, and I had a lot of those ideas budding as well, and I was super into the Matrix. And then you can like pull on those threads and they lead places ideologically. So I'm pretty excited to see where.
Are you saying you were red pilled by the Matrix?
Oh God.
Saying that was the opposite of what happened to me.
No, let's move on from that one.
I don't think that the Matrix had necessarily had an effect on me from an ideological perspective, but I'm excited to see how Wachowski's, Lana Wachowski's, like evolution in her personal politics will affect the movie.
Yeah. For me, they've just always been super interesting movies. Not always like the most successful, like the sequels, but I feel like the ideas that are there are like really good, especially since so much of it is kind of in deconstructing the kind of myth of the first movie, if that makes sense. Like dealing with, like, why are you the one? Why are we here? Like, it just gets so...
It's like, very philosophical.
Yeah. No, I literally had a book called that was like a book of essays of philosophy of the Matrix when I was younger, and read it. It was like my gateway into philosophy. Yeah, and
I would rather see movies that try and fail to interrogate those ideas than not engage with them at all. So
I think that's why I love the Wachowskis so much, as I feel like they are just like, we're gonna try whatever we want, and they go for it, and whether it succeeds or fails is kind of up to you. But like, you've never seen movies like the ones that they make, and that's why I love them, and I'm so excited for Matrix 4.
Sure. Okay. Bring it back to video games. If a studio or developer were to make a Matrix game now in, 2019, 2020, whatever, which studio would you want to pick it up? For Access. Okay.
I was gonna say Platinum, probably.
Platinum.
Yeah, Platinum.
Okay. Or Ninja Theory. Actually, Ninja Theory. My answer is Ninja Theory.
Okay.
Change my answer.
No, you know what?
Yoko Taro's Matrix game.
CD Projekt Red.
Okay.
I mean, I love them a lot, full disclosure, but I don't know.
They've already done stuff with Keanu.
Yeah.
I think I would want a studio that like.
Well, it depends on what you want from a Matrix game.
What I want is a game that is not that dissimilar from Path of Neo, but that is just like way, way, way cooler. Like, not even necessarily the same story. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to play as Neo. It doesn't have to be the story of the movies. Just something that's like very, very stylish character action kind of stuff. Focused around shooting. Because that's one thing about character action games. I know Bayonetta, which I'm playing soon, is kind of has a lot of gun stuff in it, but and obviously Devil May Cry does also, but I would love to see one that's like a shooter first that still has that like super fluid, fast-paced action.
Stranglehold. John Woo's Stranglehold.
Well, actually, yeah, I mean, sort of, not that game, because that game is meh, but yeah. I believe gun kata is a term that some people.
Yep, it is.
What was that? Was literally
that
just
was Equilibrium.
Oh no, wasn't that in the trailer for Watch Dogs Legion? They have gun kata in that game, I think.
Yeah, it's one of the skills. It's kind of a joke, though. I think
probably, yeah. But
Allison, who would you pick for a Matrix dev?
I mean, I think it's pretty. I don't know if this is like interesting, but maybe like Insomniac, just because. Both because like having that kind of character action, Spider-Man was just so good for me that I feel like I trust them to get a property like that, even though now they're Sony. Well, at that point, that's fine. But yeah.
Okay, either Yoko Taro or Nintendo.
Yes.
Nintendo Matrix game.
Nintendo directed by Swery.
Oh my God.
Sure. Yeah, I'm into it. I'd play that game.
I would.
And Uncle Death be in it? Or no, that's a Suda. That's a
Suda,
Suda joint. Yeah. You know what? Put Suda and Swery on it, like together.
No, I have a new one. I want Hideo Kojima to have to work very closely with the Wachowski sisters to develop the game, so that he has to stand in the room with a woman for more than 10 minutes and
two of them
actually maybe have some like positive things imparted to him so that he makes better games in the future.
Man, we could just talk for an hour about that damn trailer, the gameplay video they showed.
You want to talk about piss?
mushrooms.
Oh my god,
baby!
You want to talk about lactating?
Lactating mushrooms.
I know that when women tell me they're lactating, they grab their breasts and softly squeeze them to emphasize.
As you do.
I mean, yeah. I think that's just culturally, like, that's the way it works in North America, where this game is set, obviously.
Yeah, currently so many ties to North America.
Yeah.
I think you can see the names of the characters. That's really where, that's what
I think Kojima is just campaigning for, public lactation spaces, breastfeeding spaces, pump rooms, and
I want to believe
things like that.
And actually, truly, I do want to believe that I think there's a lot of people talking about like the themes of like, oh, men carrying artificial wombs, and like it's going to like look at men's relationship with babies and pregnancy. I actually don't know that that's true. I think
there's a link to the other side, like right to the world of like the death stuff. So
yeah, I don't know. I think that there is a lot of credit given that he has not earned yet for some themes that may or may not actually be examined in that video game.
Yeah,
I'm gonna play
far
it.
too early to tell anything.
That trailer was just so wacky, though. Like,
yeah, I wanna piss, so like, I'm gonna play it.
It started with like 30 seconds of just a camera circling around a sleeping. Oh god, what's his name?
Norman Reedus.
Mormon
Petus.
And then he just gets up and starts peeing for another like solid 15 to 20 seconds.
That
was a long pee.
He was hydrated.
Was.
You got to stay hydrated when you're out there in the vast North American wilderness.
That's what the game is actually all about, is the importance of staying hydrated.
Hydrated bot would be so happy.
Yeah, I misunderstood initially when they said that if multiple people pee in the same place, it'll make a bigger mushroom. Mm-hmm. I thought that meant like NPC characters. I didn't realize it was more like a touch bloodstain kind of thing. Yeah. So do you think that do you think it'll be like other like mushrooms will show up in your game to begin with that other people have or is it like odd
to me if they're just like, oh, if you just like if they don't give you some symbol that people have peed in the air, because otherwise that's a big map. Like people
except like what if it was like a No Man's Sky thing? Like people spent, because they were Hello Games was so cagey about whether or not there was multiplayer in No Man's Sky. People spent like the first week of the game trying to get in the same place. So what if that was happening on Reddit? Like people were organizing campaigns to get as many people as possible to piss on the same coordinates. That's incredible. And it's bringing people together in a way.
Strand games.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
Building bridges.
Bringing people together, making sure we're hydrated. He's just looking out for our well-being.
Also,
the reason that you can't play as a woman is because it's like not as socially acceptable to like animate a woman just peeing out on natural.
I'm going to say one is bullshit and two is something that Kojima could like be challenging with this game if he would just like grow up.
You saw the way they would not show that the ding dong.
You can look, I've played a lot of The Sims. You can do wonders with mosaicing to make it so that you don't actually see privates.
It's not Japanese porn. He can't just.
Also, there's like he could create an apparatus for the character. Like there could be some kind of like
they exist in the real world.
Exactly. And there's with the amount of weird shit in that game.
True. Sure.
If he was like, when you're playing as Mama and you have to urinate, it comes out of a tube onto the ground or something. I don't know. Like,
who is the
Wait,
woman equivalent to Norman Reedus, who would be the woman celebrity player character?
Katie Sackhoff.
just the way that you said mama made me think it was cooking mama, and that's now what I want.
Cooking something.
It's baby mama.
Again. Anyways, that game looks great. I think we talked about it a lot last week too.
I don't know if I think it looks great yet. I think it looks like quite the game.
It looks very nice.
Visually, it looks nice, and I'm excited to see. What I'm excited for is I think that game is going to be an avant-garde mess in a way that is actually very appealing to probably everyone on this podcast, except maybe Sam. I don't know, because I think he and a lot of other people, and I'm not picking on him.
Well, he was the first one to pre-order it of us too.
Yeah, I think he and a lot of other people are expecting sort of like a Metal Gear Unchained kind of thing, and I don't think this game is going to bear any resemblance to that.
And the hope is that it's more complete than Metal Gear 5. I know you haven't played Metal Gear 5, but like that's kind of a sparse game compared to other Metal Gears. Like there's a lot of gameplay, way more gameplay than other Metal Gear games, but like story wise, there's like not a whole lot. So seeing so much story in like, because all the stuff they showed of Metal Gear 5, like a lot of it was like very early on. Like a lot of it was like the opening hour of the game, kind of. I think so. If this game like lets Kojima get, like actually, do his 2-hour cutscenes or whatever, that'll be interesting to see where he goes, because it's not Metal Gear anymore. But
I think this game is very much an excuse for him to get a lot of his favorite actors in a room and shoot vignettes.
100%.
And I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing, because I think it's just going to result in lots and lots of vaguely connected sequences. But I don't get the impression it's going to be particularly action packed. Like obviously there is combat in the game. We've seen a brief shot of combat, but with melee, like a melee attack on like a person on an outpost at the E3 footage, or the footage that came up before E3. But it's not. It doesn't look to me. It looks to me more like it's about survival and exploration from a gameplay perspective than it is about combat. So
I imagine we'll see a lot more. Like I don't think we're going to be seeing a ton of Guillermo del Toro in that game.
No, I bet those will be relatively short sequences.
I don't think we'll be seeing a ton of either. Like maybe he'll show up throughout the game, but they'll be like very short sequences. Whereas like Troy Baker, I could see him showing up more often, because like he is more game oriented, and so it's easier to get him board for like a long period game thing. Probably, maybe not. I don't know.
Del Toro's not playing himself. So
he is it is just mocap. Not even mocap, just like
it's just a scan. Yeah, so he could be in it a lot without it being Del Toro actually doing the voice. So I don't know, but I don't know. I could.
God, I love how many people he's just like, can I scan your face? And they're like, yeah, okay.
Conan O'Brien, I think got scanned.
I don't think that's a good. I don't think in the modern information age you should just let people scan your head. I hear what you all are saying about if Kojima asks you do it, but I don't trust him. Like he's like 1 or 2 games away from just trying to squeeze some porn in there. Like, so I don't know that I trust the man with my face.
You're on Pornhub's #1 video game podcast. I don't think you have much place to talk.
Yeah, but my face isn't on it.
It has been.
Yeah, I know. I don't really care.
Speaking of ethics,
at least I know that coming into the show.
Coming into the show, on Pornhub.
I understand. I understand where all of our content goes. Alex does not say, "Can I film? Can I take a scan of your head?" And I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do with it. I'm explicitly not telling you what I'm going to do with it.
If Alex asked that, I would probably say yes.
No.
You know what? For me, for my personal safety, because who knows what Alex would do to me. I trust him with Allison's head, but with me, I don't know what he might do.
It's true. I did register our Pornhub name using your Twitter handle.
So I don't know if I'd trust Alex with my head.
I don't think you should trust people with a scan of your head. It's just like you don't give. If you asked for my social security number, I wouldn't give you that either.
The people can deep fake
no.
things anyway. Like they don't need a scan of your head anymore.
Yeah.
Think about how much more detailed it can be if they have a scan of your head.
It can be pretty detailed. Did you see that one with Tom Cruise recently?
Exactly.
That was going around. That,
Nick
but that wasn't like
Offerman on the Full House thing.
Oh well, yeah, but I mean, with a scan of my head, you can like start putting the like source filmmaker and stuff. And like,
oh yeah,
no thanks.
I mean, did you see the one where they
make some Overwatch videos?
Did you see the one where they God. Did you see the one where they deep faked Mike Tyson onto Sesame Street? Because that one's pretty good too.
Okay.
But
what did they do? Put him on Big Bird or something?
Well, I'll have to watch. But if you want to talk about ethics in technology in a kind of dystopian society, boy, do I have a game for you.
Oh.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
That was a good segue. Nicely done.
I was earlier trying to segue into Andre's game, talking about a Matrix game, but then we started talking about piss.
I mean, isn't this on brand for us though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is absolutely normal at this point.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, okay. Well, was it Erica, right?
Close.
Is that the name of the game?
This game is called Eliza.
Eliza and
if you
Peggy.
Yep. And if you play that game, that name will get ingrained in your mind for reasons. But yeah, no, I played and finished Eliza, which is the newest game from Zachtronics. If you guys are familiar, they're creators of games like Shenzhen IO and Opus Magnum and Infinifactory. So usually pretty complicated mechanics heavy game, but this is a visual novel. Like pretty much a straightforward visual novel. Like there's a couple things that diverge from the usual visual novel tropes. Like it does have some interesting choices that you have to make, and it does have a really good mini game. But from a very high level, this is a game which was basically written for someone exactly like me, which is weird. Like as I went through it, I was like, it's weird how this lines up with my shit 1-to-1. Because like, one, it's about programming, which I do for a career. Two, it has like a very large section which is directly about music, which I used to do as a career, and like it's pretty detailed about it. It's the core of the story is all about mental health, which I have a deep interest in, and like I don't know, it's set in like the Pacific Northwest, which is basically where I live. So, but yeah, no, it's again visual novel. It's explicitly set in Seattle in the very near future. Like if I were to guess, I'd say like 2025. They're pretty realistic about the technology. They're like it seems like technology which could be there in 5 years if we kept going at this current rate, and like and companies went in this direction. So the premise itself is pretty interesting. Basically, Eliza, the name Eliza, is an AI system which is used for therapy, so like mental health services, and basically what you can see it as is a patient comes in, talks with Eliza, who listens to what they're saying and then gives feedback back. It's an AI that's giving counseling services. But because the company who's running it wants there to still be a human touch, the patients are all interacting with a human being who's sitting in front of them. And the person is wearing basically like glasses which project VR imagery of like what Eliza, like a script that Eliza is what is telling them to say. So they are not allowed to diverge from the script, but so they're listening to all these people, having a therapy session and then giving them back feedback from Eliza. They don't need any special training. And those people are called proxies. So that's the very short version of the premise. The game itself touches on some really fascinating and like potentially sensitive topics, which I mean you would expect from a game about mental health. But like there's a lot of privacy of sensitive data kind of topics that come up. Like these proxies, they aren't trained in medical professionals. They're being told stuff which is very like, maybe this person is one day away from being suicidal kind of stuff. And like maybe the advice Eliza's giving them, they aren't satisfied with and they want to interject, but they can't. Like that kind of stuff. But like also there gets to be a point in the game where you're allowed access to look at people's personal emails and text messages. And it's like, is this ethical? So like, and then there's ethics questions and as well as having a computer trying to understand and influence human emotions and like, things of that nature. So you can tell that the creators of the game, like they've worked in startups. like, because the company itself was a startup, you can tell. Like, there's a lot of startup culture stuff going on there. They understand the realities of the culture of startups as well as the realities of programming. Like I said, the depictions of programming seem pretty realistic for what you would expect for like 5 years from now. And they actually talk about like, yeah, people expect this to be like a fully sentient AI. No, that's not possible with our current technology, but we could get there. Like, that's what they're kind of talking about. And it's really interesting. But I don't know. It's really fascinating. I should note, the music stuff they talk about is extremely well researched. Like, maybe the best I've ever seen in media, not just games. Like, they're talking about things like Moog synthesizers and TB-303s and Eurorack modulars, and like, this is stuff that I was super interested in college. And it's like, wow, this is stuff you don't think about unless you're a real fucking synthesizer geek. So it's awesome. And in Zachtronics tradition, I don't know if you guys have played any of the other games, but it has a totally new solitaire mini game, which is extremely challenging but really good. Yeah. And
I saw like I think you sent us a picture or something, and it looked like it was like mixed with mahjong or something.
Yeah,
like it had like a bunch of like Chinese or Japanese symbols on it.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of Chinese symbolism in the game and characters. So, and Japanese stuff comes up as well. So there's both, but that game in particular, I believe, is Chinese characters. But
okay,
like not kanji. But anyways, it's really interesting. I don't know how to describe it because it's unlike most other solitaire games I've played. You can see every card on the board. Nothing is hidden. And it's all about figuring out how to not walk into a corner, basically. Like, it's very easy to screw yourself, and it's difficult to solve it. Yeah, I won't describe it, but it has 4 levels of difficulty. Like, it goes from easy, medium, challenging, and like just straight up hard. It's super good. But anyways, ultimately, my feelings on Eliza, I think it's extremely well-written characters. Like, everyone that you interact with is really fascinating and different in their own ways and very well realized. The world is really good. The premise of everything that they set up is really good. The only thing I was disappointed by was kind of the ending. I mean, it has multiple endings, so, you know, like, you can't really choose a canonical ending. There's like 7 or 8 different ones. I went back and finished all of them just to see. I think my initial one was still, quote unquote, my canonical ending, but I wanted to see how the rest of them resolved. And they're all kind of short, which is my only issue. Like, but then again, if they were to follow all those threads, that would be like a 40-hour game. So I understand. But yeah, Eliza, totally recommended. I think it's worth it. You can get it. You can knock it out in like 6 or 7 hours if you wanted, including finishing the solitaire. So
I intend to play it because I like the I don't like visual novels, but I like the like what's the word I'm looking for? I like the narrative design of Zachtronics games. They're just kind of beyond me from a gameplay perspective. So I'm interested to try it out because I think it's cool that they just leaned into a game that's fully narrative.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. I'm definitely going to pick it up at some point, just because that sounds like it's something I want to play.
Yeah, it sounds neat, and it is on a list of many games that need to be played in the next few months.
It's short enough that I think I'll actually be able to make it happen.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
it seems doable.
Yeah, you could knock it out in an afternoon if you really wanted to.
Speaking of things being knocked out in the afternoon, Allison, what have you been playing?
We had such a good segue earlier.
I always use the worst segue for Allison. It makes no sense.
I don't know how much I have to actually talk about this week. So Fire Emblem Minute, I'm still playing it. This game. Does anybody else have anything to add to Fire Emblem Minute?
Don't think I've played since last week.
Yeah,
I played a tiny bit last night.
Yeah, I stepped away from it. I'm going to come back for my second playthrough, but...
Where are you in the story, Pat?
Oh, so early. Like chapter
But-
5 or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like I feel like I've been playing for a while, but I'm not that far on the chapter count.
Have you done the bandit thing, like the bandit tower?
No.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's very early.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm finding very little like desire to play it, but I want to see the story through because of how people say it gets so good and so crazy after the time jump. So I think that game is, for me, becoming quite boring from like a playing it perspective, which is too bad.
I mean, it might be you could just auto battle, but then you still have to like go through and push auto battle every turn.
Yeah, and also, I'll play it. I'll finish it. But the fact you can't up the difficulty in that game in the middle of the game is like extraordinarily stupid.
Yep. I mean, you're early enough that you could just restart and then skip through all the story stuff on the way.
No, I can't, and I won't play through it if I restart it now. I would have to do a different house, and I want to see that house's story stuff. And I'll get through it. I will. I just need a break where I think handheld mode is going to be the way to go for me to play that game largely. Just trying to get some in before bed and stuff.
Sure.
And it's not that I think that the game is bad at all. So I don't want to come off as too negative. I just think that normal difficulty is just not that fun. But I'm sure that if I were playing it on hard, I would probably be having a much better time in the battles because I think that the design mechanically is really good. It's just that the difficulty is so simple when you're playing it at that level.
That's fair. Yeah. I'm getting close to the time jump on playthrough number 2. And I'm playing it on hard, and it's not necessarily super difficult like pre-time jump, but I'm interested to see how post-time jump is. And then also I'm playing it with on casual and with New Game Plus. So so we'll see. But it'll be interesting for me to see if I want to go check out the see if like maybe I'm going to try the like hard difficulty there, like the harder difficulty they're going to add later. Who knows? But it's so I'm nearing the time skip with Black Eagle's house, which is good. I like some of the characters in the house. I just miss my blue lion so much.
Yeah, I miss my lion cubs.
I know. I'm just
have you not just recruited all of them into your house already?
I'm working on it, but it's taking.
You're running out of time.
I know I am. I've got a couple of months left.
You can't get.
I'm like giving people presents all the time, going like, "Please join my house."
I just eat like a million meals. Also, you can use Renown to upgrade your relationship with all the people.
I might have to do that.
And then just focus on getting all the Black Eagles or all the golden deer that you don't have.
Yeah, I'm considering that.
Priorities.
But, priorities. Yeah. So yeah, that's been fun though. I'm really excited to get more into the story aspect. Like I just want to experience the story on for all of these houses. So I'm just like raring to go. But despite being my second playthrough of a very, very long game, I am actually not feeling at all like fatigued by it. So that's good. Since that's basically all I played some Tetris 99 last night. There was actually another weekend event this time to coincide with Fire Emblem Minute. You can it's another event where you play to get enough points to unlock a Fire Emblem theme. So if you guys are interested, it doesn't take that long to unlock, and you get to play with the theme while you're doing it. But I think it's a very nice theme because it has all the music and it's aesthetically really, really pleasing. So back on that Tetris 99 stuff. It's hard to believe that it came out this year just because I've played it so much.
Yeah, it does feel like a long time ago.
It does. It feels like it's like an institution in my life. And then it's like no, it just came out earlier this year. It's like, what?
Yeah, it dropped with the direct, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. It was just like, oh, and it's out now.
Yeah, it came out in February, so it's only been like 6
What?
months,
Oh my god.
Yeah,
right?
so weird.
Oh
Right?
god. Oh, why?
What
Oh
is this
god.
here?
No, I knew it was the third, but oh god, it doesn't seem like it was in February. Oh god. We're running out of time for Game of the Year
Oh, I
stuff.
thought you were
God.
just saying like in
Oh.
general. In
I mean, also,
existence.
yeah.
I mean, also in general, like
Yeah.
everything's bad. But
There was
Welcome to
I don't want to.
Existential Burden podcast.
I don't want to change. I don't want to throw us off the rails, but I have to say there was a moment last night. The internationals happening. There was a moment that Casey was interviewing a Dota player. I think it was FY, who is a player for Chinese team. Anyway, she asked him if he was ever planning on retiring, and he was like, maybe someday I'll be a coach or a caster, but right now I think I could play forever, like 3 to 5 more years, or I feel like I could play till the end of the world, 3 to 5 more years. And what he meant was his career will probably last another 3 to 5 years. But what I heard was, yeah, man, the world probably is going to end in 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
I heard that too, and I was like I heard you say that. I'm like, the world's gonna end in 3 to 5 years. I'm like, yeah, sounds about right.
if we're lucky.
Continue.
Yeah. So other than that, I'm attending a gaming convention this weekend. It's not. I know PAX is this weekend, so it feels like it's like nowhere near the level of PAX. But it's
PAX is next weekend.
Or it's next weekend.
Yeah.
Never mind. I thought it was.
So you're attending the biggest gaming convention this weekend.
Hey.
I don't know if that's true, but we're gonna say.
Probably
Well,
not.
Gamescom was last weekend, so maybe
It's-
a lot of game conventions like backed like real close to each other this year, and I don't think people are happy about it.
It's probably not. It is a pretty small convention, but it's 2D convention in Minneapolis, where I live, and it seems like a fun little convention so far. Only went last night. I'm going to show up today and tomorrow, but it's kind of like a cute little convention just because there's only like one room for panels. Then there's the place where you can buy stuff. There's the place where you can like try out a bunch of local indie devs, and like they have an arcade set up. So with a weird amount of Japanese rhythm games. And I don't know, like, I'm wondering if just somebody in the area has like a collection of Japanese rhythm games or what. I don't know why.
Like arcade rhythm games? or
Yeah.
Okay.
Arcade. It's like a bunch of Japanese arcade cabinets that are like all rhythm games. Like, I mean,
Like
there's
what?
like other games too.
Like Forte,
Uh,
the Hatsune Miku game.
They have the Hatsune Miku game. I played it yesterday. They also have 4 of the Jubeat machines, which I got like really into. Which is basically you have a grid of squares, which are 4x4, and it tells you to tap them in time with the music, which sounds pretty simple, but then it gets really hectic. But that was very fun. They also had a pop-in music. They had a Taiko no Tatsujin, which I haven't gotten to play yet because it's been full. There's one that had a
They've
full
got some
on.
bangers on there right now.
Yeah, they also had a full piano. They had a game which had like a full piano keyboard, but I tried to play it, and you just hit like.
I think that's Forte. I think because you hit like basically just sections of the keyboard.
Yeah.
As they come down in like a rhythm thing, and like you have to move along the keyboard, but you're not actually playing. You're just kind of like vaguely hitting chords.
Yeah, and then there's a couple points where you like slide up and down the keyboard. Yeah, which I was like, okay, I've been playing like piano not very well, but I've been taking piano lessons recently. I'm like, will this help me? And it's like, no.
No,
Not
it's like Guitar Hero won't really help you become a guitarist.
right. And then there's a couple of other ones too that I'm trying to remember. They have a theater rhythm cabinet, and I haven't played that one yet, but there's just like a bunch of Japanese rhythm games that have been fun. But yeah, so no, it's been fun to try that. I am going to try more of the local indie games and check back in on those. But yeah, and this convention all goes to support able gamers.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's just completely charity focused with able gamers. So even if you're not in the Twin Cities area and you're not going to 2DCon, donate to able gamers. Why don't you? It's a great charity, and it's definitely deserves your support.
Awesome.
Pat, I believe
Hello.
you pulled something out of the ashes this week.
Please don't.
The ashes of
Don't
this
denigrate
conversation.
this phenomenal video game with your.
I'm not. It survived the fire, and
Oh my God.
it's the only remnant of the disaster.
This is a disaster.
Yeah, it's a bad name for a video game. I think we can all agree that Remnant from the Ashes is like, I would assume that is some kind of like free to play game that was developed hastily and probably is using stolen assets.
Sure.
And is maybe mobile game or something. But it turns out that it is instead a phenomenal new game from Gunfire Games, who was the developer of the not as phenomenal Darksiders 3. But a game that I actually, one day I'll go back and play all of the Darksiders games, because I've played bits of all of them and I really enjoyed all of the bits I played. Even the little bit of Darksiders 3 that I played at PAX last year, aside from being kind of buggy, it was cool conceptually. But it's interesting to have played the little bit of Darksiders 3 that I played. Gunfire Games only developed Darksiders 3. They did not do the first two, obviously. But a lot of the visual aesthetic that was present in the section of Darksiders 3 that I played kind of translates over to Remnant. So I think I don't think they like necessarily used a lot of assets from Darksiders 3, but I do think that there's a clear artistic direction similarity between the two. So Remnant is basically a third-person shooter. It's post-apocalyptic, but not post-apocalyptic in the Fallout sense. It's much more like the environments.
Fantasy post-apocalypse.
Well, sort of. It is on Earth. It starts on Earth, and it is a destroyed city. That's the first area.
Starts on Earth. Oh, we'll leave Earth at some point.
Well, I don't want to spoil
like
too much about where the game goes. I don't believe you go to the moon. But essentially the post-apocalypse it was very much like a modern day, or not modern day. It was very much like a standard Earth kind of thing. And I believe the idea is, I think the timeline is it happens around the 70s at some point. Basically, it's kind of like The Mist happens, the Stephen King story. Like some research goes awry and a portal is left open for this really voracious, violent force called the Root to invade Earth. And so it's kind of what you would expect. Like it's like malicious tree monsters, plant monsters that manage to come in and start to like basically cause an apocalypse. And so there's not that many people left, and you kind of find yourself at the beginning. It's kind of ambiguous. It's like you're sent off on a boat from your community to try to reach the place that everyone thinks they have to get to stop the Root, which is this like atoll that's surrounded by storms and stuff. It's the intro is kind of like mysterious in a way that Dark Souls intros kind of tend to be. And I bring up Dark Souls because structurally the game takes tons of elements from that game. So it has things like it's a third-person shooter, but it has things like bonfires. They just call them checkpoints, but they're like floating crystals that everyone sits around when you use them. They allow you to travel around and act as points to refill your ammo and health and dragon hearts, which your dragon hearts are a refillable healing item that you push a button and it heals you, but they have limited charges, much like Estus flasks. And then it has things like fog gates before bosses. It has the enemies respawn when you rest at checkpoints. So it has a lot of the structural elements of a Souls game. Narratively, it's a little bit more, I don't know if traditional is the right word, but while you don't encounter loads and loads of characters as you progress, you do have like dialogue with characters, and there is like a lot of, the writing is a little less ambiguous than it is in Dark Souls. There's also a lot of item description stuff in it too that's pretty cool, like Dark Souls has. And the story of the world is like super, super, super interesting. That's actually one of my favorite parts of the game, is kind of exploring more about the setting, which I was very surprised about. I'd been following the game since E3 because I like the art a lot, but the writing is way more interesting than I kind of anticipated. But Star here, like the thing that's so amazing about it to me is, so it's a shooter, but it is very difficult, and kind of a like From Software, where certainly if someone were to say it should be more accessible, I wouldn't argue with them, because it is very hard and very hard to play solo. You can play co-op very easily. People can just jump into your game. There's matchmaking if you just want to like join a random public game. So it's a little less convoluted for co-op than something like a Souls game, but it is very hard, but it is a really interesting shooter that merges concepts from FromSoft games with concepts from something more like a Gears of War. So you're fighting enemies with guns. Enemies can have guns or be melee focused. Your loadout is basically a long gun, which is sort of like a primary weapon. So that can be like a shotgun or a sniper rifle or a hunting rifle or whatever. And then you have a handgun, which is sort of like your secondary weapon. So far I found like SMGs and pistols. And then you also have a melee weapon. And anytime you press the left click, or I would assume right trigger, I'm playing my mouse and keyboard, without aiming, you're going to swing your melee weapon, which has a set of simple combos, just like one button combos, and then a heavy attack you can hold the button down for. And then when you hold down your aim down sights button, then you aim and can fire your gun. So the result is like you can very quickly switch between melee and range combat, which is important because there's a lot of enemies that get very in your face. And then you also have a roll, like a dodge roll. That's kind of like a fat roll kind of thing from Dark Souls. And you have to use it a lot because enemies get in close very quickly. So it's not like it's not a cover shooter. There is like a soft cover mechanic. There's no cover button, but you can crouch. And when you're behind cover or crouched, if you right click, it pops you up over it. So there are some times when you will sort of fight from cover, but generally you're moving around a lot and trying to create distance between you and the enemies. So then the other component of it is it is vaguely a loot game, but in a really unique sense, which is that their philosophy on designing the loot was, what if we made a game that is a loot game, but the loot you find is always like an exotic weapon in Destiny, which is to say, like, you're not going to find 20 assault rifles. You may never even find an assault rifle, but when you do find an assault rifle, you're going to go, fuck yeah, an assault rifle. Or you're going to go, like last night, I found a weapon called a hunting pistol. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Because you find weapons quite rarely and armor even more rarely from what I've seen. So when you do find stuff, it's really cool. That said, it still has you're picking up like materials to upgrade your weapons. So there's still a progression with your equipment. And then it also has sort of a Monster Hunter element to it, where when you kill bosses, they drop a unique crafting item that you can then go back and craft either a weapon or a mod out of. Mods are you attach a mod to your weapon and then it gives you an ability. So like I'm currently rocking one that when I use it, it creates a pool of healing around me. And then on my secondary weapon, I have one that summons a like little enemy guy, but it's fighting for me. And you fill those mods up by doing damage with the weapon. So there's all this kind of like, it's just like a really good flow because the combat just feels really, really good. They introduce new enemies at a faster, like there's more enemy types than I was expecting there to be. Seems like every new zone I run into a couple new enemy types and they're all fun and interesting to fight against. And then kind of the final wrinkle that makes the game really unique is when you start the game, it rolls a campaign for you. And that's going to contain like your unique weapons and bosses that I don't think the pool is that huge for that stuff, but it means that your game is going to have a different layout than in a friend's game. And it also means that you're going to have the potential, like you're going to have different bosses and items potentially. You may have the same ones because like I said, the pool isn't huge. A couple friends and I have been playing it together and two of us had the same bosses for a couple of them. So I don't want to sell it as like infinite possibilities because it's totally not. But I think from what I've heard, I'm guessing there's around 30-ish weapons in the game, and you may only get like 6 of them in your playthrough. I should say 30-ish that can spawn that are random. There's several that are just available to buy from the vendors that everyone gets.
So I think I heard it compared in a lot of ways to like Dead Cells in kind of that way. And especially when you talked about like running into bosses and stuff like that and like general layouts and stuff like that. Would you say it's kind of like a 3D Dead Cells in a manner of speaking?
The thing about Dead Cells is like it's a roguelike, right? So like you're starting over and over again. What's interesting about Remnant is it's not that. Like you are progressing through it. So I've heard wildly different estimates. People saying it takes like 10 hours for a playthrough and people saying it takes 20. But you're not doing you're not like, it's not like every time you die you're getting a new world. Otherwise, yes, there's elements of that. You can re-roll the world if you would like, but you lose all of your progress. You don't lose the progress on your character stays the same. But the idea with the re-roll is you might finish the game once and then okay, well, I know that this thing can spawn in the first area, so I'm going to re-roll my campaign until I get there with the New Game Plus. They've also, I've heard, not from a developer, but I heard people talking about, or saw people talking about, that they might add an adventure mode that would probably be closer to a Dead Cells kind of thing, where you're rolling specific zones over and over again, but I don't know for sure. It also is not really like a service game. Like the max level for gear is 20 and like my gear is all at level 5 right now. So I don't think the idea is that it's necessarily a game that you'll play like Warframe or something. It is more of a like play through it once, maybe you play through it on a New Game Plus on hard, but it's not really designed to be like a thousands of hours kind of thing. But what's there is like really solid for what it is. And what it creates is these cool things. Well, for starters, this is it's kind of a spoiler for an event that can happen, but I want to illustrate the ways in which this works. And it's one of a lot of different things that can happen pretty early in the game. So like I was exploring the first zone and I came across a sewer grate. So I went down into the sewer and I found a guy who was kind of rambling about, like, he had on a mask that looked like the Root. It looked like their visual style. And he was rambling about how like the great oak was telling him things and he could hear the voices and blah, 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 blah. And you could trade with him or you could press him to give you his mask. And if you ask him a couple of times, he like flips out and starts shooting at you. So I didn't really want to kill him, but I killed him and I took the mask. And it turns out that it was like a piece of head armor that heals you over time and gives you really good resistance to rot, which is like a type of damage that the Root can do. I should say too, mechanically, like it's got tons of different elemental damage types. There's loads of like advanced info combat wise. It's not simple. So that part's cool too. So anyway, I had this Root mask, and in my friend's game, I was playing in his world, because the way co-op works is whoever is the host that's whose world you're playing in, and you take all of your character progress with you back into your world, but your world doesn't progress because it's different. So in my friend's world, there was this tree, and it turned in. I had done it with one friend prior to getting the mask, and we had to kill the tree. But before we killed the tree, it gave us the option to talk to it. And when we talked to it, it said incoherent tree language. So in my other friend's game, we saw the tree, and I was like, wait, we got to try talking to the tree with the root mask on. Yeah. Sure enough, the tree picks you up, barfs in your face, some tree goop, and then we got a new trait that was like root armor as a trait. Traits are like passives that level up as you kill enemies. So it's stuff like that can happen where like, wow. I didn't have that tree in my game, but by going into a friend's game and happening to have that face armor, it created a like new way to interact with an event.
Sounds
and
really
there's
neat.
there's lots of events like that we've been theorizing. Like, I don't know if they could have gone a different way, but it seems like with the right stuff, things could have changed in terms of how like specific events resolve themselves. It also means that things will happen. Like there's a set of bosses that everybody deals with, like a set of encounters that you always will have. But for some of the like the random bosses, they're like harder versions of special enemies that can show up. But it also means that like, oh, my friend fought Gorefist, and Gorefist dropped a crafting piece that let them make a unique gun. I didn't get Gorefist in my game. So now if another friend says like, oh shit, Gorefist spawned for me, then it's like, okay, well, wait. Let me come and do Gorefist with you so I can get the crafting material to make the gun.
Quick question.
Yeah.
How reliant on having like a community of friends playing this game is it? Like, could you, if you were playing this 100% on your own, would it be a lesser experience?
I think it would be lesser because I'm having a lot of fun with the stuff I just kind of outlined. However, I have heard some people say it's not playable solo. That's not true. I think it's hard, but it actually takes on kind of a different feel solo. When playing with friends, it's challenging still, but it's not like once you get kind of the mechanics under your belt, it's not like brutally hard. Like we had my friends and I ran into a boss last night and we just like destroyed it. Like it wasn't even that challenging. And part of that was because we were just set up really well for that fight too. So sometimes you'll get rocked and you'll need to kind of like evaluate what you're bringing to the fight. So I don't want to say it's like easy or anything, but solo, it's very challenging, but I do think it's doable. Like I had a boss that I played against solo last night that my friends beat. They're on East Coast time, so they were fighting it while I was eating dinner. And I found it very challenging solo, but it was fun in a fun way, and I beat it. There is one part that is sort of a like defend this point part that I have played that I could not get through solo. So I don't know how it goes for the rest of the game, but I had a friend that was able to get through it solo. So I don't know. The other thing you can do too, the way that the level scaling works is pretty interesting. It basically assigns you a character level based on an average of your gear levels. So things like all of your gear it's like the thing plus a number, and you get that number just by upgrading the gear. So like all my gear is +5. So it looks at your inventory and says, the average of all your levels is 4. It doesn't surface that number to you. They've said that they might fix that because it's a little weird. Basically, when you walk into a new zone for the first time, it scales all of the content in the zone to be like your level +1. So it's hard. You can kind of grind out materials to upgrade your weapons. So if you were having a really hard time with a section, you can actually go back, grind up, because it never changes the level of that zone once it's sort of made that determination. So it's not a game where it's going to be impossible for you to progress solo. I do think it's more fun to have people to play with, but I wouldn't say you shouldn't play it if you don't have friends. Like I said, also there is you could open your game up to be like a public game, and then people can matchmake into it too. So you can play with sort of pub people. The chat options are pretty bad right now. There's basically like voice chat that you can't turn off. And I just like, and it doesn't, you can't turn it off. Like I like to use push to talk because I play with my partner in the room, and usually we have like a stream on or something. And there's no push to talk option either. It's just like your mic is open all the time. So you have to just like set your Steam mic to not be the thing you actually use to play. And then use some other chat option, but they're working on that too as a fix. One other thing that's cool about the game is the developer seems very engaged in improving it and like listening to community feedback. And there's a lot of posts on Reddit that like come off as like a little bit dickish in my opinion about like, well, they should do this and this. And almost every feedback post, someone from Gunfire drops in and goes like, this is great feedback, thank you. And so they do seem to be paying attention and listening to criticism and stuff. But I don't, aside from some of those quality of life things being an issue, I don't have a ton of criticism of it. I think it's a really fantastic game.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And it's also not full priced either, right?
No, yeah, it's $40.
Yeah, which is crazy. I would expect this to be like a full price game.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to play through it once, it doesn't seem extraordinarily long. Like I said, it's like, I've heard like 10 to 20 hours, depending on how much side stuff you do. And I don't,
That's longer than some $60 games.
No, yeah, totally. And I don't think, the procedural generation stuff is like really interesting. But I think if you're looking for like, I don't know that I would say like, oh, are you you're bored of Destiny? You got to play Remnant. Like it's not really a Destiny or Diablo like game. It's much closer to something like a Souls. If you're looking for something that's like Souls, but it has like shooter elements. And the procedural generation stuff is not so crazy that it's like there's a part where you have to go through a sewer. I think there's like 4 different map layouts that can happen. So it's not like a billion, it's not like No Man's Sky planets, but for your campaign experience. So that shouldn't really be oversold, but it's still so much fun to play. I could see, I at this point see myself finishing it and at least trying to like start a hard New Game Plus playthrough and to see how it feels. The other thing that if you do have friends, that kind of makes it longer. Like I think I'm about a quarter to a third of the way into the game, but I have played, I'm looking at my Steam count, for 11 hours. Because we've kind of been like helping each other progress. So like we'll go back to somebody else's game and play through stuff, and then I'll go to my game and play up to where we left off with my friends' games. It says something about the game that I have not been the least bit bored playing through the same stuff like 3 times. Because it is just that good.
All right. That is a game I definitely want to try. I'm probably going to dive in later this week. It's my last week of vacation, so I got to figure out what I'm going to try and get through before that ends. And
that seems like a game for you, Andre, because like you
I'm a fan of the Soulsborne games.
You kind of liked the Surge, didn't you?
Yeah, I like the Surge. I like pretty much every Souls game. 2, I'm like on. It's not my favorite. It's my least favorite of the Soulsborne FromSoft games. But I like all the Soulsborne games. Neo, Sekiro, yeah, all that stuff. I think it's real fun. I want to play it. I'm
excited that it's doing really well too, because they were picked up by THQ Nordic, which fuck Mark, but I feel like that asterisk needs to be added for till the end of time. What I am hoping is that because the game is doing so well, it's been like topping Steam charts. Is that THQ sees it as a game that, because they seem so passionate about it, like continuing to develop for it. Like their gameplay director was saying like, oh, we're already thinking about stuff for Remnant 2 on Twitter. And they've talked about wanting to do post-launch content. They're pretty adamant that this is not going to be a game that sees like frequent content updates. Like
no,
they have,
no
like,
battle pass.
this is a complete Souls-like kind of game where they want to do some DLC for it. But I hope that they don't get turned into the Darksiders studio by THQ, and that instead they get to like keep making this thing, because Darksiders is cool, but this is a more interesting setting to me. And there is narrative setup. I don't want to get too spoilery for things, but there's narrative setup to allow them to make this game as wide reaching as they wanted to. Like
there's always narrative setup.
Totally. But there's specifically the concept of like portals to other worlds is core to this game's thing. So, and that's stuff you learn very early. So it's not really a spoiler.
Then you go to Colombia and you're in the air. Then it opens a portal to Star Wars.
A bunch of lighthouses.
Yeah.
And then there's a tiny little spaceship that the Mandalorian can't get inside. Speaking of games that I'm trying to get through before my vacation ends, I finally got into Devil May Cry 5.
That's on my list.
And let's see. So the only Devil May Cry games I've played are Devil May Cry 4, which was one of the first games I played when I got my PS3.
It's okay.
And DMC, the Ninja Theory reboot,
which is fantastic.
It's very good. Devil May Cry 5 is a sequel to Devil May Cry 4. It does not continue the Ninja Theory DMC storyline, which is a shame. But there's still similar kind of things going on. Like Nero is similar to, I think, the DMC Dante. They're, they've got a similar style, similar attitude, I think. But it's also been a while since I played DMC. In Devil May Cry 5, you have 3 different characters that you're switching between. Dante, V, who is the newcomer, and Nero. And they each have like their own kind of unique play style, which makes it a lot of people have already said this kind of stuff because this game came out in like May, but it makes it difficult to like get good at the game because like every 2 or 3 levels you're switching to a new character and they play so differently that like your skills don't necessarily like translate. Like for example, Nero, he is pretty basic. He's got his sword on like triangle, his gun on square, and he's got like his devil breaker, which is his right arm, is like a prosthetic, and you can pick up different ones that have different abilities. So you've got one that like does a lightning punch, or one that's like a rocket arm and it flies around. And if you can like ride it like a skateboard or like a hoverboard in the air. I don't know how I did it. I only did it once. There's so much that I'm just like, how did I do that? Those are his abilities. You can blow it up for like, to extend combos. Then like a new one will appear. And then V, who is the other character that you play early on in the game, he has a bird that flies around, and he has like a panther that does melee attacks and stuff. And he just kind of hangs back and reads poetry and stuff. And it's like, hey, go attack over there. So it's a much different play style from Nero, who is much quicker and in the face of the enemies, whereas V is like hanging back, waiting till the enemies get weak, and then he'll jump in and like stab them with his cane sword and get the kill. And so I haven't been able to figure out really the best way to play V, because like I'm trying to mash stuff out, but it doesn't seem like it's working. I'm like, should I be locked on all the time, or should I not lock on all the time? There's a lot of depth to the combat that I don't think it does a good job of explaining. Maybe if like I had been keeping up with Devil May Cry games this whole time or something, it would be more intuitive. And if I spent the time with it, I'm sure it would be. But I'm very rarely getting like triple S's, much less like a double S or even a single S in like the style rank. But they have this weird thing so there are certain levels where like Dante, Nero, and V will all be like going through the level, and you'll see them off in like the distance, like, oh, over on another building, or like down in a pit somewhere, I see like Dante fighting. And then at the end of the map, or at the end of the game, it'll be like, oh, do you want to give the other person like a stylish rank? It's like, say, hey, you are stylish, but you never really see what they're doing. You just see like their combat rankings pop up. You're like, triple S, A, B, triple S. I'm like, Sure, they're stylish. I don't know what it does. Like, I haven't gotten any messages saying I'm stylish. I'm not, but yeah, I'm like, does that get me like extra like gold orbs? Does it get me like skill point, or like, I don't know. What's the point of it? It's not clear. But the story is, I think, actually pretty good. Kind of what I'd want from a Devil May Cry, I think. I didn't watch the history of Devil May Cry, which they have in the game, which kind of just goes through like, okay, here's what's happened in the past 4 games. And I don't remember anything that happened in 4. I know like kind of some basics. There's Virgil as the brother and Sparta and stuff like that, but I don't know.
I want to play 5 so bad, but like I'm doing my thing. I got through like 1 and 2 and I love them. Mm-hmm. And then I got through a quarter exactly of 4 or 3. Uh-huh. I loved what I played at 3, and then stuff came out and I kind of moved away. With Sekiro was the thing that made me move away from it. Mm-hmm. And then I really want to go back and finish 3 and play 4 before I play 5. Mm-hmm. But I also know that that's, they're not very long games, but that's 20 hours to finish.
Play 4 seemed real long when I played it back then. But that might have just been because like half the game you go through like all the levels, and the second half of the game you're going backwards through all the levels. Right.
I think I just checked the how long to beat on it, and which almost always lines up very closely with my playthroughs, and it was about 11 hours. It's set for 4, which isn't that bad. Like that's the kind of thing that like can knock that out in a weekend. So like I want to catch DMC 5 while it's on Game Pass though, because I don't think it's going to last there for more than a couple months. So we'll see. I don't know. I want to play those games because I really enjoyed the first 2 and the quarter of 3 that I played. It kind of like was sort of a character action like awakening for me, because I had never really gotten into games in that genre before. I guess Nier technically, like Nier Automata was really the first one of those that I really connected with. But I don't know. I'm excited to play 5 at some point because it looks great.
It's very goofy. Like, they've got the style like cranked all the way up as far as they can, and then a little bit extra in there.
And the story's weird. I don't really care about playing through the games. I would watch a story recap. It's not like I need to see it, but it's more what you're saying, the gameplay of the evolution of gameplay I really want to see.
But I will say the second half of the game I'm not liking quite as much as the first half. Maybe that's just the difficulty and my failure to wrap my head around the combat in a meaningful way. But like the level design is kind of it's like everything is very similar and samey in this second half, whereas like DMC, that every level is like something new and unique almost. Like, when you're going through the like the energy drink facility and then the nightclub and the news factory and stuff like that, or news factory, the news network, all that stuff is very different. And this is a lot of the same, which is a bummer. But I'm looking forward to seeing like where the story goes. Even not knowing much about Devil May Cry, like the story, I was able to kind of predict where some things were going as they kind of popped up, and like, oh, I bet this person's this and blah blah blah. So I don't know how it's going to end, but I think it's a good time so far.
Those games are great about like you see a character and you're like, that character's a villain, and then that character is like talking with the hero characters and appears to be a good guy in like with the way that they're interacting, but you're like, no, they're a villain. And then like later in the game they'll do a total like, and guess what? I'm a villain. And they play it up like it's supposed to be surprising, but you knew it all along. And it's great.
Dante is a real good idiot and just like goofball. So there's some good stuff in that game. And I hope the end kind of brings me back around on it. Cause like I said, that the second half has been not as enjoyable as the beginning, but
I maintain that it's really crazy in the past, let's say 2 or 3 years, that Capcom has kind of come back in a way.
Yeah.
I think it started with Monster Hunter, but like
Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but either way, that year, 2017, like Capcom really started bringing their A game again when it seemed like they were just garbage for like 5 to 10 years before that almost.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, what was it 20? Let's see, what year? Okay, let's see. 2017, sure. And then last year was Monster Hunter. Okay, yeah. So yeah, Capcom's been killing it for quite some time now. I'm still mad that Gamescom did not have a Resident Evil announcement. There was like a leak or a rumor that there was going to be an announcement about Resident Evil, but maybe Tokyo Game Show, because Capcom's been doing like like calling people in to do like playtesting of a new Resident Evil game, but nobody knows what it is.
I also played through most of Resident Evil 1 over the past couple weeks. That's been fun.
Where are you now?
I'm at the part where shortly after when the hunters spawn, the like farm guys.
Okay.
The next section I have to do, I'm gonna try to finish it before PAX. The next section I have to do is like kind of a long unbroken section that involves a lot of like avoiding and fighting hunters. So I hadn't started it because it was like 10 o'clock and I was like, this next section sounds like going to be like a good half hour long. But that game is very interesting. And it's wild to me that the remake has so much more content in it than the base game.
So it has more content than the original, but I think not much more than the director's cut. Gotcha. Is my understanding, because I was watching a speedrun. I was like, oh wait, there's more in here than I thought. Yeah. But I was watching a speedrun of the DS version of Resident Evil 1.
Yeah, it's a weird game in a good way. I mean, I voiced to you like I had some issues with some of the early puzzle stuff, but I don't like the combat, but that's just, it is what it is.
It's PS1 era.
Yeah, totally. As a product of its time, I don't have loads of criticism for it. And even as a product of the time of the GameCube remake, I don't have loads of criticism for it. And it's the story and the way that game unfolds is just very fun. And I think
you'll really like 2 when you get to it then. Yeah,
that's kind of why I want to finish it up this week, because I want to start 2 sooner rather than later. Yeah. Because I know I'm really going to like it.
Yeah. Oh man, that game's so good. I've been messing around with speedrunning so much, but there's so much to learn. I was just watching like a movement video, like tutorial video, and like how to do quick turns and how to like stair skate and all this crazy stuff.
That's cool.
Makes you shaves off seconds of time, which I just need to like work on, like getting through the game consistently, because oh man, there's a boss fight in there that'll just kill your run every time. But that's like probably the worst part of the game is that boss fight, but you'll get to it. Anyway, does anyone have anything else they want to chat about?
I had one little game that I played that seems neat, but well, no, I played I kind of do this thing where I randomly go through games that get suggested to me via algorithms, like on Steam or Google Play or whatever. And I tried 2 Android ones. One was called Sandwich! And it's fucking terrible. Don't play it. That's about all the time it deserves. Okay. It just plays ads between like almost every round, which are you can't mute them, which is my biggest biggest quibble. And it's like, nope, don't even want to interact with this. But the other one is called that's a good question. It's called Flow Fit, and it's basically a combination of Sudoku and Tetris, which is kind of interesting. So like you basically get Tetris pieces with numbers on them, and then you're using that to solve a Sudoku puzzle. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's neat.
So is it like a tile set and you're putting them into a board?
Correct.
Okay, they're not like falling.
No, there's no falling involved. Okay. It's just they're in Tetris shapes, and then you're slotting them onto. Correct. Well, for the most part, I think there's some shapes that are not tetrominos, but yeah, it's
maybe like a W or something.
Yeah, like there's like 2 line long, like 2 block long things and stuff like that. So that obviously isn't a thing, but Flow Fit seems good if you just want a free kind of way to waste 10 minutes. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. That is going to do it then for this episode of Gaming Fix. It's inevitable. It's got to come to an end at some point. Episode 84.
All good things must end.
or do
and
they?
bad things. So
We don't have to end the podcast. We can keep going.
By the way, Pat, I've in the background on my other screen, I've been watching the LGD versus OG match.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. Keep watching.
The international baby.
Keep
Yeah.
watching.
We should-
It's gonna be a late fucking night tonight.
Yep. Next week we're gonna be talking about the international. Heads up.
Good to know.
That is going to do it for episode 84 of Gaming Fix. Thanks for joining us, everybody. If you like this podcast, give us a follow, a subscribe. Yeah, subscribe. Like us on your podcast platform of choice. Give us a review if your platform so chooses. Visit our pornhub. You'll find it. Hey, you're probably going there later anyway. I think Pornhub said they're going to plant a tree for every 100 videos watched some month. Make some of those videos our podcast.
There's also some I saw a news article, okay, about this. That they launched a channel where you can watch like bees getting down, and for every video that's watched, they're donating some money to some bee conservation.
Pornhub.
I love how Pornhub is like the most wholesome company on the
Sort
world.
of. They do some shitty stuff too, but also like there's such a mix of like. It seems like they do try to do good things.
Yeah.
Second largest video platform on the internet.
It's not
After YouTube.
surprising.
After Vimeo, surprisingly.
Wait, really? What? Is that
No,
actually a
no,
thing? I was going to say.
It's definitely YouTube is the number one.
Yeah.
Of course.
You can find me, Andre Cole, online at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W. Allison, where can people find you?
Find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY.
Great. Pat.
You can find me at PJC Plays and at PAX next weekend. So, hit me up if you've got stuff you want to talk about.
Yeah. Hit Pat up for the hot PAX. POX?
Or if you're going to be there.
Get the
Pat,
Please,
Get
no,
Pat's
please.
PAX
no.
Pox. Oh my God,
Please
Pat's
no.
PAX
I don't
Pox
want
is a
PAX.
good-
I don't want PAX Pox.
Fuck.
I'm doing 3 days this year, and I don't want the Pox.
Yeah, I was thinking about going, but there's no more weekend
Pat's
tickets.
Porman
so.
Petus. Alex, where can people find you?
I don't know, in bed or something.
Oh, yeah.
Not that way.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll be back again next week, same time, same place. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.